This is Jabran Asif at the Keyed Up Podcast, the ultimate podcast for music and celebrity interviews. And today we got a very special guest, punk ska legend Jesse Michaels, the lead singer of Operation Ivy. Operation Ivy was a punk rock band from Berkeley, California, that were active from 1987 to 1989. They were one of the founding members of punk ska and influenced bands like Rancid and Green Day to start. Hey everyone, this is Jabran at the Keyed Up Podcast. I got a special guest, Jesse Michaels, with me today. Man, thank you so much for joining all the way from California. And how have you been?
Pretty good. Where are you located?
I'm in New Orleans.
Oh, sick.
Yeah,
You're in the Big Easy.
Yeah, Big Easy, swamp city, and never sleeps. You know, I actually moved here from Texas about a year ago. I was born here, so kind of back in the roots. So, have you been here before in New Orleans?
Yes, several times.
Nice.
I've come through on various tours, and it's an interesting town.
Yes.
It's got a vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
I love it, but it's like the most corrupt place I've ever seen.
Oh my God, man. That's it's funny you said that. That's like the only thing here. There's just like a ton of corruption from courts.
Oh, it's insane. We were playing a show once and we were loading out, and the people in the show said, watch out for the garbage men because they're coming through. And what the garbage men would do is when people are loading out, they'll take a piece of equipment and throw it in the garbage. And we were like, oh shit. And then we turned around and they had thrown a box of our merch in the garbage. Like they'll take it, throw it in the garbage, take it down the street, and then take it out, steal it.
Crazy.
Basically. Yeah, it's insane. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Pretty smart. I mean, you got to hand it to them.
Yeah, right. It's like some loophole system. Yeah, that happens a lot around here. It's pretty crazy. Cool, man. Well, yeah, thanks for joining and things like that. So I got to start off going back to earlier this year, you kind of did a surprise appearance, with Tim Armstrong playing sound system. So kind of give how was that experience and how did that all come together? Was it just tell me about it.
Well, I see Tim pretty regularly. Since I moved out to LA, we've reconnected.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of just run in the same circle. So I bumped into him. Sometimes I go down to his studio. I went down there about a week ago and did some writing with him in this band called Grade 2. And anyway, so he does that thing every year. It's a charity event.
Cool.
And I think he usually does some Rancid songs, does some stuff with the Interrupters. And he proposed that I just jump on and we do sound system. So we did it. He does it with the Interrupters anyway.
Nice. Yeah, it must have been a pretty cool feeling, and kind of going on stage again and playing the song. Did it kind of, did you have a lot of memories from it? Was it kind of just did you rehearse it before, or was it just an all in, haven't played this in a long time kind of thing?
Well, we did one rehearsal, ran through it a couple times. That song's probably the easiest one. It's one of the few I actually remember most of the lyrics.
Nice.
Because I don't have the greatest memory for lyrics, but even my own. But yeah, it was pretty easy. I mean, that's not a tough song to sing. Some of the really screamy ones are a little bit more challenging, but that one, even though it has a fast staccato rhythm, it's not that hard. I was pretty nervous though, just because, I mean, I've never stopped playing music or playing live, but
yeah,
just because there was a lot of lights. It was just sort of, I'm walking into something that's already happening, and I had to match the vibe. It's one of those situations where there's a lot of lights, so you can't really see the audience, even though it was a backyard.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was a little bit nervous, but I thought it came off fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm sort of a perfectionist, so when I was watching it, I was cringing a little bit. The thing is, I should just never watch my own shit.
Yeah, no, I think it sounded really good, man. And so going to to the very beginning, what kind of got you into music? Was it from like parents or things like that, or just kind of a whole inspiration from other people?
Well, when I was a kid, um, my mother had a boyfriend who had a daughter, and she was around my age. She might have been 1 year younger. I'm not sure. But anyway, and we all lived together. So she was sort of like not a half sister, but a something. And she got into Rocky Horror and the B-52s. So I'm pretty sure the B-52s were my first exposure
Yeah.
to punk related music. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. That led to Devo. Devo led to the Ramones. Ramones led to Black Flag, and so that's pretty much how it happened. But Berkeley, there was movies. There was a punk movie they showed that was about the UK punk '77 scene.
Yeah.
So I went to the local movie theater and saw that. We saw Dance Craze, the famous ska movie, when we were kids. Berkeley was a pretty good place to grow up back then. If you were a kid that was going to be interested in music, because there's just so many opportunities for exposure.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet and phones back then, so it was about crate digging and hoping something happened. And in Berkeley, a lot of stuff did happen.
Yeah, nice. That's amazing. Going back to being in a band back then, comparing to now, there was a lot of extra things like playing a show, just getting shows, getting to the show, and all that kind of stuff. So how was dealing with that, and how was like the process behind that?
Well, a lot of my friends' bands, we didn't have any money, even though we weren't like poor kids. I'd say that most of my friends came from kind of middle class or even upper middle class families. It was like an academic town. And the university played pretty well, but no one ever had any money. I'm not sure why. Probably because we didn't have jobs. But so getting equipment and stuff could be a challenge. Everybody was sort of, if you managed to get a Marshall or something, it was sort of a big deal.
Yeah.
And sort of a disaster if it broke or something, a minor disaster, But basically, I was the singer, so I didn't have to do that much in terms of getting to gigs. I started playing, so I had been in several bands before Operation Ivy, things you'd never heard of. But by the time I started playing with them, they had already been playing together for years. So they had their setup, they had the practice pad, they had a PA, they had a way of getting to gigs. Sometimes it was pretty slapdash, like we, as some people know, we drove around in a car. We didn't have a van. We had a car with a box on the top, but I don't know. It was never that tough, frankly.
Yeah. It's so crazy now looking at bands. Nowadays, there's so many more, tools and resources to like play shows and things like that. I feel like now it's kind of like, yes, there's like tools and resources, but now there's so much access to it. It's not really like, a lot of people are like not wanting like to do a person to person kind of connection or communication, regarding like playing shows and things like that. So it's just interesting to see the perspective from, back then during live music and things like that. So
yeah, it's totally different. And the main thing that people always talk about whenever I'm interviewed, which is not that often because I don't like interviews, but you caught me in kind of a good moment where I feel talkative.
Yeah.
Most of the time I turn down podcasts, but for some reason I just felt chatty or whatever. But anyway, I think people always ask me or bring up the difference between punk then and now. And I think really the main thing is that have you ever heard of the Overton window?
Yes.
So the Overton window means what is considered acceptable by society. And it shifts. So, like 20 years ago, you'd think a trans person, whoa, a lot of people would be blown away by that. Now it's relatively common. And it's the same with punk. The Overton window has, I said overturn window. Overton window has now, like, punk is in the window of sort of normalcy. And so the people getting involved with punk, and this is not a criticism, but they're just not as much of outsiders.
Yeah.
They have their shit together. They take certain things for granted that we never would have. They don't have quite the same camaraderie because it used to be sort of a band of alienated people. The punk scene, it used to be kind of like, even if you hated someone, like they were assholes or, had tendencies you didn't like, even if you hated them, you still kind of knew you were in the same club. That's much different now. And again, I'm not criticizing, I'm not doing like an old man, like the scene died when I stopped going to shows or anything like that. But that is a big difference. And I think it's a big difference in how young people experience being in a band, and especially a punk band, and doing the whole thing.
Yeah. It's
they're all kind of more well-adjusted. That's than we were. The shows aren't less violent. People aren't shooting dope into their genitals. It's just more kind of, people are more well-adjusted. And in some ways, I think that's a lot better.
Yeah, you're right. And it's just like more accessible. It's kind of going back to like even hip hop in the late 80s and 90s. Probably, definitely more dangerous than it is now. I mean, kind of mixed thoughts on that because there's still a lot of, like violence and things like that. But yeah, looking back, like even like documentaries I've seen, like the American Hardcore, when they just go over the whole 80s hardcore punk scene, how dangerous it was, like from Henry Rollins and people bashing mics on their heads. You don't necessarily see that all at punk shows.
It was gnarly. And the people that romanticize it, I would like, because a lot of people, think it was cool. I would like to see them see some of the shit that I saw and see if they still thought that. And I say that without ego, like I've seen a lot of gnarly shit already. I'm just saying it wasn't cool. The violence wasn't cool. It wasn't fights. It was 5 people jumping on one guy, always. I never saw maybe rarely, a one-on-one fight was by far the exception. It was packs of people beating people up, and it was just really ugly. But that's not the whole story of what was going on. That was one aspect that you kind of had to deal with.
Yeah. And
the rest of it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like musically and things like that. Was there ever a moment like that you felt like you maybe wanted to step back from going to shows if it got super dangerous, or it was just kind of like, let's just go, we're used to this?
Well, I got into punk in 81, which was sort of the glory year for the original hardcore, but I was 12 years old. I didn't have access to much. I could go to a show once every couple months, and my parents had to be involved anyway. So, but that's sort of the culture, if you will, that I entered into. And I had friends that were into hardcore that were older than me, and they could do things like go to San Francisco. So Berkeley was violent, everywhere was violent, but San Francisco was next level. So, and a lot of them just quit because they're like, this sucks, You go to a show, and terrible things would happen. They're just like, this sucks. This is not what I got into it for. So yeah, a lot of my friends just quit. The thing is, by the time I was sort of an age where I could go to shows regularly, it had simmered down a bit, and the Bay Area scene was much more prominent. We were doing our own thing. I mean, the East Bay. San Francisco's across the bay, and it was much gnarlier. All the gnarly skinhead Nazi guys were gone, in prison, or just jump bail, and
that's crazy.
It was more chill. The thing is, even if it still was ultra violent, I probably would have stuck around because I just love the music so much.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even.
I wouldn't have. LA would have been too much, though. LA was 100 times. LA is like no comparison. It was insane here.
Yeah, because you had.
I live in LA now.
Okay, yeah, and you even seeing stuff like you had like footage from like Germs, Circle Jerks, like it looked absolutely insane.
Yeah, and it got much worse after that. So in that era, Germs and Circle Jerks, like Decline of Western Civilization, That was the phenomenon of, you had the old scene, which was like X and the Plugs and bands like that. And that was the phenomenon where all the kids from Orange County were starting to show up. They invented slam dancing, and they were beating people up.
Yeah.
But then after that, the next phase was the era of the gangs. And you had about 7 gangs, and a lot of these gangs were really big, sometimes 40, 50 deep, and they were just, terrible things were happening. People were getting killed randomly. It sucked.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
But you also had some of the best music ever. So
yeah, it was like
it's just the way
chaos.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So going back to how Operation Ivy formed and things like that, like how did it happen? Were you were friends with Tim before, correct? And then you guys just kind of started playing together?
Yeah, me and Tim, we would run into each other around town. We kind of ran in different circles, but we knew each other. And we were both fans of this band called Crimshrine. And I remember one time we met at one of their practices. We would see each other at Crimshrine shows. Those were our buddies. And in fact, even when we started, we were like, we should do something kind of like this. But of course, it turned into something different.
Yeah, nice. So the band was pretty short-lived. You guys played a couple shows and did these, from venues to backyards, houses, and things like that. So going to nowadays, you see, a kid wearing an Operation Ivy shirt, or, a band covering them that's, relating to kids and things like that. Like, how do you feel about that? And do you think that, that was just like a cool thing to see, inspiring?
Yeah. Every time I see that shit, I'm like, wow, that rules. I feel I've never not felt lucky or grateful that people care about it, because we never expected back then, unless you were the Dead Kennedys or Husker Du.
Yeah.
If you sold 1,000 records, that would be remarkable, or at least that's what I thought. I don't know if that was really true, but so yeah, I'm still stoked about it. That has not diminished.
Yeah,
I know.
Cool.
I know that I kind of hit the lottery. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, leaving alone the question of whether or not we deserve kind of the response we got over the years. It's just so rare when you consider the thousands of bands back then, or at least hundreds, many of whom were really, really fucking good, better than us, I think. But we just were sort of landed at the right time and right place with the right sound.
Yeah.
That we got a kind of, we got eyes on us. And a lot of that had to do with Green Day and Rancid, and that whole thing that elevated our brand, if you will. You know what I mean? So yes, I know that we were very fortunate, and I'm still stoked about it.
Yeah, it's even cool, like going back like 15 years ago when I found out about you guys. Like, I was in a bunch of punk bands, playing around, because I played drums. So yeah, we would cover, like Sound System or Yelling in My Ear, and just got so into the band, just from, like the fast pace to the lyrics, and it was introduced from listening to Rancid and those other bands, and then I found out about everything else that was underground, so it's cool seeing that. Even funny enough, like, was this 2 summers ago? I think MGK is a cool dude. Like, he has a good, good voice and things like that. And I was listening to, is it called All I Know? And I was like, wait, this is the chorus of Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So was that like a situation where they reached out to you, or just like, was like a licensing deal, basically?
Yeah. So when you get to sort of the next level of music making, and I say this as sort of an alien, I'm not saying this like an old veteran.
Yeah.
This is all sort of new to me, but basically you have a publishing company and they handle your intellectual property, and they will pitch it to people sometimes if you ask them to. I don't think we do much of that. And sometimes they receive requests. So we received a request from this guy to license that course, and we accepted it. At the time, I didn't know how big it was going to be. I didn't know how connected MGK was to kind of Hollywood culture. So, it wasn't exactly an informed decision. I don't know if I would have made the same decision now, and that's nothing against MGK, but we do our thing.
Yeah.
And we've tried to sort of keep it relatively pure, and I use that word loosely, but sort of free of a lot of, it's been on a couple video games, a couple skateboard things, but we don't totally like hoe it out.
Sure.
So exposing it to a bigger, much more kind of mainstream thing, I don't know if I would have signed off on it, but I don't, it's all good at this point. Like Green Day has covered that song for 20 years, playing it every fucking night. You know what I mean? It's not like it's some sacred thing. The other thing is, he works with Travis Barker, who everybody says is a cool guy. He does have a good voice. I think he's a good songwriter. Or if he's working with songwriters, it's, I like pop music. When I listen to his stuff, I bop my head. It's not something I would be likely to throw on. So it's all good,
Yeah, that's cool.
But at the same time, moving forward, we are a little bit cautious about sort of throwing it out there anywhere.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So go into that. Like, I'm curious to see, what kind of music are you, like, what's in your playlist right now? Like, what kind of music are you listening to today?
Lately, I always listen to old punk and hardcore. Just sort of, but I don't really like throw on those records. I just kind of like dip into it. I don't know.
Sure.
Lately, I've been listening to Alice Cooper.
Nice.
He kind of invented everything. I didn't realize how much stuff he invented. It's amazing when you listen to those records and realize they're from like 1972, and there's so many elements that are familiar now, like goth, makeup, the whole gender bending thing. He really introduced a lot of stuff. So anyway, but the main thing is the songs are just really good.
Yeah, huge credit to him, because he just like the idea of concept albums and like changing themes every album. Like now everyone does that, but yeah, you're looking back in the 70s, it's quite cool to see that. That's definitely cool.
Amazing shit. It's his albums. The chain of albums starts with I don't remember, but there's basically 5 albums. It starts with Love It to Death, and then I think it ends with Welcome to My Nightmare. But those 5 albums are pretty much perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've yet wanted to see him live, but the only I did see Motley Crue live, and that what was cool about that, the opener was New York Dolls, so that was kind of cool to see. Yeah, that was really cool.
Amazing.
It was interesting because they were the first band, and like there was not many people there. I was like, man, does no one know this band? But that was definitely cool to see. Cool, man. So going to the last few questions, it seems like you're really into art, like painting, modern art and things like that. So have you always done that? I feel like you've done album covers in the past, right?
Yeah, I've always been into kind of punk illustration. Around 2005, I started taking a stab at, what you might call fine art, stuff you see in museums. That's a whole nother world, and I like it. I've always loved art, particularly from the modernist period and early postmodern period. So I've had that practice for about 20 years, and I've dipped away from it sometimes, but now it's like a mainstay. I do music and art.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I do it. I love it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I've seen the art on your Instagram. It's really cool. Yeah, art's awesome to me. I mean, even going to um different type. There's a lot of great art galleries here in New Orleans. But I was in DC about 2 weeks ago. I went to all the different museums, art museums.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
DC is great for museums.
Oh man, it's amazing too. It's such a big district of museums, like a 2 mile stretch. Of like.
Yeah, it's incredible what you can see there. It's great.
It's pretty cool. So I got a very general question. What is your favorite food in the world?
I guess probably fruit. That's a general answer. I love fruit.
Nice.
I like salad. I like pesto.
Dude, yeah, pesto is one of my favorites.
I'm really into pesto, but I
Yeah.
can't eat it all the time. It's too much, but at the right moment, you can't beat it.
Yeah. Good choices.
But generally speaking, fruit. I've always been a fruit monster. I go to people's houses and just start eating the fruit. I don't even know what I'm doing. And they're like, why you're eating all the fruit in my house?
The whole fruit bowl's empty. They're like, what are you doing?
I'm just in a corner with a wet shirt.
Have you had star fruit before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I like
good.
star fruit a lot. That's awesome. Well, man, yeah, thank you for joining me today, everyone. This is Jesse Michaels. Any last words? Like, are you working on like solo music or kind of like behind the scenes, or not allowed to tell us yet?
I've got 2 album projects I'm working on. So 2 albums. I can't tip my hand any more than that, except to say that I'm confident that people will like the music.
Cool.
I think,
Exciting.
and I say that in all modesty because I've made good music, I've made bad music, but I've reached an age where I can kind of gauge people's response.
Yeah.
You learn when you play something for people, whether or not they're lying when they say they like it. And from what I can tell, I feel like we're on the right track with both these albums. Two separate groups of people, but they're going to take a while to finish.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Let me know, and we'll do another one, when it happens. So yeah, man, nice meeting you. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Right on. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you have a good week, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Nice meeting you. It's an honor.
Good to meet you. Take care.
Take care.